So like scripts kind of stink, right? Like everyone says,
No.
can I have a script? Stuff like that. But like a script that would work for Lindsay might not work for me. Same one might not work for Jeffrey. So I like to use a script as more of an outline. And I always thought of scripts in a traditional sense, like you start by saying like all of this, and then they say this, and then you say this, and they say this, right? But that's not how it works. Like when you have it's great in theory, but when you're in a real conversation, so what I've realized is that all my scripts are kind of the same in the sense of you start with an opening sentence, right? Whether you're calling a FISBO, an expired, canceled, or buyer lead, you're going to start with an opening sentence to connect, to say who you are and earn a micro credential in the first 3 seconds. So you're always going to start with basically something along the lines of, "Hi, Alex, it's Brian with Foraker Realty, the team that just sold blank," right? If maybe that's what you're calling for, or, "Hey, I'm a realtor with this, was calling about your home here." The next thing I would do is give you a 1 second reason for the call. "I noticed your listing expired and I wanted to understand what was your next step." So after that, I would ask an open-ended question to get them going. If you ask a question that gives them an opportunity to just say no, then you're screwed. So, "Hi, it's Brian. Was calling from realtor.com. Noticed you just reached out about a house for sale. Was wondering how I could help you today." Bam, right? Now they have nothing left to do but sit there and they have to explain, like they either hang up the phone or they have to talk with you. So they're either going to do one of two things. They're either going to keep allowing you to walk further down that road. "Yes, I actually want help and allow for a close. I'd like to see the property." Or they're going to give you some sort of an objection, right? So if they give you an objection, accept the objection, agree, um and don't solve the objection right then. It's important now that this is the first time that they're talking that you also are going to match their tone.
Mhm.
So if they say, "Actually, we stopped deciding to work right now," or blah blah blah, and you reply back, "No problem, man, it's fine, like I got you, we're going to find you the best house in the world," it's not going to work. You guys aren't going to be aligned. And in the reverse setting, if he's like, "Yeah, man, I actually put my search on pause, it's just way too expensive right now," and you reply, "Okay, sir. Well, listen, I understand you want to put your home on pause." You gotta match them. Like, "All right, man, I got you, no problem. Look, we're not rushing anybody. Let me ask, where are you moving?" So it's very important that you match their tone. And I never even realized I did it until I started calling with you guys, and Matt's like, "Wow, you perfectly matched his tone." And then I'm like, "Oh my gosh, now I'm being cautious of it," and you really have to. So
Glad I could plant that seed for you.
yeah, I appreciate it. So do not solve their objection right then. If you do, think about it. If they say interest rates are too high right now, and you reply back and say, "Actually, historically, interest rates are low, and do you want to really care about the rate, or do you care about the house you're moving into? Are you worried about your monthly payment or how much of a value you're getting?" Like, if you solve their issue right there, where does that even leave you? Like, let's say you make perfect sense. Where does that leave you in the sentence? They still don't have any trust or built any rapport to you. And they've also only been on the phone with you for probably a minute. So at this point, I yeah, we decided to put our search on pause because the rates were too high. Okay. Now park it and pivot it. Totally hear you. I understand the rates are really high right now. No problem. Let me ask, how long have you been listening? How long have you been looking? So ask one or two questions matching their tone. Sounds like the neighborhood means a lot to you. Like, what first drew you there? Now you're just building a rapport with them. If you can keep somebody on the phone for 2 or 3 minutes, I think you have a substantially better opportunity to close them. Think about it. They don't feel like doing that all over again. If you were buying a car, I always convert it to that. If you were buying a car and you sat on the phone with somebody for 20 minutes and explain to them why you need an SUV and you da 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 and the gas mileage, this, that, and the other. Do you really feel like doing that ever again? Like I would probably just buy a car from that guy just so I don't have to call somebody else and go through that again. So um, build rapport with them, and they almost are more. They're more likely to work with you. So sounds like the neighborhood means a lot to you. What first drew you there? All right, great. Now that you've asked them one or two questions, and I
One
want to
lady.
go ahead. All right, I'm going to give you guys rapport building questions, but the main thing is where, when, why, and how. Okay. So where are you moving? Why do you want to move? What's your reasoning for moving? Who's going with you? Does the school district mean something for you? Like any type of question, it doesn't matter what it is, ask them. Get the conversation going. Start to actively listen and get there. So now let's go back now to their original objection. The way that you're going to solve their objection. So what's a good objection? The rates are too high. Okay. I would go back to, hey, the rates are too high, right? We pivot, ask them. I totally understand the rates are too high. I agree. They really aren't that great right now. How long have you been looking? Where are you guys looking? Blah, 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 blah. Right now, I've built rapport with them for a few minutes. Let's circle back. Feel, felt, found is going to be the formula, right? So we're going to agree with them, tell them that we felt the same way, and then found is going to be our solution. I understand how you feel, sir. The rates are too high. Most of our clients that are buyers right now felt the exact same way. But what we found is if you could find your dream home and still keep your monthly payment affordable, a lot of our buyers are actually going to make that bet because we don't know where the rates are going to go. The alternative is to rent. We know that the rent's going to go up more and more every year, on average 10%. So if they're comfortable with that payment and it's a home for them and their family, the rates really aren't that big of a deal. Let me ask you something. Is the interest rate the most important factor of where you're moving today, sir? Actually, no, it's not. Okay. Well, and now you know all of his issues, right? Like you already know the problem he's solving by moving because you built rapport for 2 to 10 minutes. Some of the people on here probably 30 minutes, but you can circle back to what problem is the move actually going to solve for him. So great formula, right? And they're gonna maybe they hit you with another one. Same formula every single time. They give you an objection, agree with them. Overly excited, right? We're not selling, we don't want to work with an agent right now. Oh, I understand, sir. No worries, no problems. We're not calling you to beg you for business. I don't like working with real estate agents either. Let me ask, how's your home sale been going? Where are you guys moving? When do you want to get there? Have you had any pictures? Ask them anything you want. Just build rapport with them and then circle back. Hey, I know you said, you didn't want to work with an agent. I know exactly how you feel. Most of the people we talked to in your position felt the exact same way. But what we found is if we can get you more money at the end of the day than you can get yourself, it's really a risk. It's a win-win for both of us. And then close them. So I don't want you guys going out there saying, I need to memorize a circle prospecting script. Okay, great. I got circle prospecting. I need to start working expireds. Let me memorize an expired script, right? This is the same exact formula you can use with an agent that brings you a lowball offer. It's the same every single time. It's just building relationships. Someone brings you an offer for 350.
Or as an agent that you bring a lowball offer.
Yeah, 100%. Hey, look, I appreciate your offer. It was 350. I know you were $50,000 below. No problem. Let me ask, how long you guys been looking, right? Just ask a few questions. What did they like about the house? Well, why did they make an offer on this one? Well, blah, 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 blah. Okay, well, I know you're a great agent. Um, let me see what I can do and just go back to it. The hard part with negotiating with them is that's only going to work if they know that their client has room. You know what I mean? Like a lot of agents here are just directing traffic. They're not really involved in the sale. Oh, you want to see this house? Okay, great. But we can get on that on another day. So I have this 7-step pivot checklist sheet that you guys can use. And then here's a few that you could use it on an expired listing. You could use it on FSBOs, on whatever you want. So I'll give you this, but I made a better form. This is some on the feel, felt, found, some examples. Commission. I understand how you feel. Every dollar matters. Understand what I'm doing here, right? If there's a seller and a buyer, or if there's me and then the buyer, they give me an objection. I can either prove them wrong, or I could walk over to them, say, I know how you feel, walk over, grab their hand, and walk them back over to my side, right? Let them come to the conclusion. So they're not wrong. They're just learning it on their own. I understand how you feel. Every dollar matters. Many sellers felt the exact same way. What they found, our marketing netted 3 to 5% higher offers more than covering fees. So, or I have an agent. Makes sense to stay loyal. Others felt that too. They found a backup strategy actually helped their agent succeed faster. I'm just browsing. I'm not ready. I understand timing is everything. I totally get it. Most buyers felt it was early. They found a quick planning chat saved them weeks when they were ready. Waiting for the market. Market shifts can be scary. A lot of our owners felt the exact same way. They found that selling now and buying later with our rent back option, ChatGPT is getting ahead of themselves here, put them ahead. So need to think it through. Completely fair to think it over. Many couples felt a pause was smart. They found taking a look at firm numbers together made their decision easier. Has anybody used this before? Anybody heard me use this on them?
No, I mean, my coach teaches me the same thing, like affirm what they say, repeat it back, and then
Yeah.
offer a solution.
Yeah. And I think that, yeah, that's great. I just think a little bit of rapport building in there too. You know what I mean? Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like with script, I mean, I use the against scripts 100%, but when I realized when I started internalizing the script, because obviously the words on that script are not how we talk.
Mm-hmm.
But when we internalize and make it our own,
Yeah.
and I
That's
appreciate
kind of what I was
you're
getting.
saying
Yeah.
here. What you're saying here is you don't want to veer off the script. It's so easy when you talk to people to veer off the script.
Right.
What you're saying is you're affirming them and you're getting right back to the point. You're staying on task here.
Yeah.
And you're driving the conversation. That's
100%.
what I'm talking to people. So,
And yeah, I guess sometimes I think of the word script and it's like,
but even doctors use scripts.
right.
Everybody uses scripts.
Yeah, it's more, think of it as like a checklist and you can kind of make it your own and like how do you feel, but the important principles are that, you know. So also remember in the beginning, what's your goal of the call? But right, don't be a robot and think, okay, let me log in. I have to make my calls today, and you're just calling to call. Like, what's your goal for the call? I mean, if we're calling buyer leads, the goal is either to get them an in-person buyer consultation, get them set up with a lender, get them out in the streets seeing properties, or, you know, at least maybe get another referral or something like that out of them. So make sure you're aware of that when you're making your calls. So you're not just on there talking to talk and you hang up and how'd it go? Great conversation. Okay, great. Do they want to work with you as an agent? I don't know. But I talked to them for 30 minutes. Okay, cool. So understand your goal. Remember this park and pivot flow. So open up, connect with them. Always sound overly excited. I like to say a little laugh too, like, hey, it's Brian, you know, something like that, just to kind of set the tone. Like, you can't be mad at that. I could call the most upset person in the world. And then when they get upset, I go right to a place of contribution. Oh my gosh, ma'am, I'm so sorry. I was only trying to help. I know you were looking for homes. It could be so bad out there. I'm sorry. I didn't want you doing it on your own. Is there any possible way that we could help you? Right? So it kills any type of madness. But if you start getting it back, which is easy to do the 30th time you get hung up on, you know, then you're going to ruin it. So connect with them, overly excited, introduce the purpose, engage with them, right? Would you like to list your home with a realtor? They're either going to say yes or no. When they say no, it's not time to go to that. It's time to build rapport. Okay, great, no problem. Where were you moving? Blah, 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 blah. How's your sale been going? Build rapport. At the end, circle back to that objection. Hey, sir, and we're doing it with our feel, felt, found. I understand why you didn't want to use a realtor. Most people felt the exact same way. What they found was, and now you insert how you're going to solve whatever problems they're having. We already know that FISBOs only want to sell by owner for one of two reasons: either that they want to save money, or that they want to prove to everyone that they can get more than all the agents they interviewed said, or they hate realtors. So, yeah, we're going to help them first, sell later. And make sure you have a no oriented close. In other words, if you say, could I come out today and interview to sell your home? They may say yes, but they're wanting to say no. If you say, would it be crazy if I stopped by for 10 minutes later today? They're going to probably say no. You know, they want to say no. So remember that. And on your intro, you don't want to ask a question that has a yes or no answer, because that stops. We want to hand them the mic and let them go. How's your search going? How's your home sale been going? Blah, blah, blah. The only time I'll do it is maybe with a FISBO if I'm getting like, if I'm trying to rip through them. Have you considered working with an agent? I might ask that right away. But make sure you, before your call, know the script framework, not every word, and just sound neutral. The most important parts of the script aren't the words you say. It's asking the non-open-ended or an open-ended question. When they answer, you replying back and matching their tone. They're going to give you an objection. You're going to dodge it and build rapport. I don't need to keep repeating the same thing, but research the property and the owner, blah, blah, blah. Why it matters, it builds credibility. Make sure that you're putting your answers in. Now, I've done power hour with some of you, and I can hear your keys because you're hitting it so fast that, and I can also tell that you're not asking your next question until you're done typing the note for them. Where were you thinking about moving? We'd like to move to Brookside. Brookside. Okay.
Call center.
Yeah, so we're not doing that. Your job is to build a relationship with them and become best friends with them. Pretend like you just sat down next to them at a bar. You're not going to pull out your phone and be like, "Hey, where are you moving? Brookside? Oh, hold on a second. Anybody got a pen?" You know. So, at the end, do that. We have call recording options, so you can easily do that. They can tell how you feel through the phone. Stand up, smile, mirror their pace. Your energy is going to go through. Like, I could tell when I call somebody. You've called somebody at Comcast and they're like, "Hello." And you're just like, you know what? I don't even feel like dealing with this right now. So I listen to call centers. When they call me, I pick up the phone and I do role play with them. So, and I can tell you what, the ones that are like overly nice and happy, sometimes they almost get me. So okay, quick reference toolbox. Parking objection lines. Use it step 4. We're not listening, we're doing it ourselves. I don't know that I like this.
No.
Let's circle back in a minute. I would just circle back. Like, I would say absolutely control is key. And that might be a little weird because you don't necessarily know that they're listing it to have control. Just browsing, not ready, totally makes sense. We'll return to timing in a sec. So maybe we just ignore those people.
Yeah, I don't like, all that is throw is something.
Yeah. Where did what happened? I think I just gotta go like this. So rapport discovery, what's the timeline, their motivation, their location, financing, and must-haves. If you ask them all that, I mean, you know the whole story. Because you'll find out, why are you moving? Well, we're in a townhouse and I have a dog, and now you know that you can't send them condos, you know, like, or townhouses. So you're doing a lot of that yourself, but make sure that you're actively listening, not asking the question for an answer to follow the script. You need to get up in their life. You're now a part of their family and you're moving with them. and they'll know, like when you're in their house and you're like, okay, so like where's all this stuff going? Just like I leave today, where's all your stuff going? They know, like, all right, this guy's mentally a part of this transaction. He's not just saying, yeah, I'll sell it and leaving. He's like, he's mapped out how he's getting this deal to closing already. So I have some new scripts here for you guys. Um, for sale by owner. Hi there, it's name with Foraker Realty. I noticed the blue house on Main Street is still for sale or maybe rent. Why am I doing that? Because I don't want them to think that I'm an agent calling in front of Zillow, calling for sale by owners. I want them to think I'm parked out in front of their house, right? Because again, I got to get past that first 2 minutes on the phone with them to get my chances of them actually setting an appointment with me to be higher. They're going to say, yes, it's for sale. If they say no, then what do we care? All right. If they say yes, great. I work with a lot of buyers nearby. I wanted to hear how the sale's going so far. How's the activity, mostly agents, whatever. Um, ask them if they consider interviewing real estate agents, right? Maybe we can put that right here. Have you considered interviewing agents? They're going to say basically one of two things. We want to work with, well, I mean, we've done a for sale by owners class, but if you guys want, have you considered interviewing agents? When they reply back to that, I guess they're going to say, no, we want to do it on our own. And then I think the idea is to get what's the main reason they want to sell it on their own? Well, it's to save money. And then what are we going to do? We're going to park at that, build rapport with them, and then circle back. I understand what you're wanting. Yeah, actually, the reason for my call is we have a for sale by owner program. Was just curious if you'd be interested in hearing about it. We actually list the home for free, right? Go down the for sale by owner thing. Where are you hoping to move next? And then close. Would it be crazy if I stopped by for 10 minutes tomorrow to drop off a resume and show you the program? Now here's one for buyer leads. Hi, blank with Foraker Realty. I saw your inquiry about the home in this city. I wanted so this is a new realtor.com lead. And when you guys have those op city leads, it's not your job to become a yapper. You just say, hey, would you like to set up a showing? Or did you have a question I can answer for you? Someone's already done everything else and they've agreed to work with an agent. And then, right. So like, obviously we don't need to go through that. Buyer with an old lead. Hi, Jim. It's Lindsay with Foraker Realty. You reached out a bit ago about buying and I'm just checking in. How's the home search going? What did you like about the last place you viewed? Right. Let them open up. Totally hear you. The market feels wild. Let's set aside. I don't like how they're like acknowledging that they're pivoting. How long have you been looking? Go through all that. And then remember, go to your close about um, setting up an appointment, getting them over to a lender or whatever. They feel overwhelmed. Let's see what they did for an expired. What I did was I gave ChatGPT my old scripts and asked them to put it into this formula, and it left a lot out. For expired listings. Hi, Lisa. I'm Brian with Foraker Realty. I specialize in homes that didn't sell the first time. I saw yours just expired and wanted to understand the next step. From your perspective, what blocked the sale? Now, what if they say, actually, Brian, we're good. We don't want to talk to agents right now. I think the key would be just that's like a mini version of everything. Like, oh, no, I totally understand. I know you're probably extremely busy and you're getting a lot of calls from a ton of agents. Look, do you mind if I ask you one more question? And then with a expired, I always throw a Hail Mary. if we had a cash buyer that wanted to buy at your old listing price, would you still consider selling? Oh, you would? Okay, great. Can I ask you a couple questions? Start building rapport again, and then go back. And here's some good ones. If the sale had closed, where were you guys moving? Do you have like figuring out like do they have to sell this house? Um, and they call it here. A lot of sellers felt loyal too. What they found is a fresh 30-day relaunch gave them leverage. Would it be crazy if I popped by Friday for 15 minutes to lay out a backup plan with no strings attached? Circle prospecting around a just sold. Hi, Taylor. It's Brian with Foraker Realty. We just sold 7 Louise Court in your neighborhood. Okay, I actually sold that house. I don't know how ChatGPT knows that. Yeah, I didn't put that in there. I'm sharing the results and seeing who else might want a similar outcome in the next 12 months. Out of curiosity, how long have you thought about moving, if at all? Right. When I do circle prospecting, I like to throw out there, hey, I just wanted to call and congratulate you. We just sold a home in your neighborhood that actually raised everyone's home value. Have you had a chance to look yet? That's a pretty cool one. Yes, Rocky, I'll share the script for you guys. Reverse prospecting, we might have a buyer. Hi, John, it's Brian with Foraker Realty. I'm working with a pre-approved buyer for your neighborhood. Have you considered selling if the price and the timing were right? Whenever I talk about this kind of stuff or like people are whatever, I'll always try to say like if they're not answering, like, hey, in a fairy tale world, or if you could wave a magic wand, or in a perfect world, if interest rates didn't matter, what would your home look like? So you can always say something like that, and it kind of keeps the conversation going. Follow-up cadence. It says to email them the same day, attach a value piece, CRM, add a task, text touch at scheduled follow-up. Match, mirror, lead. Match the tone, mirror the words, and then guide them. So finger count. Hold up 1 to 7 as you move. Fresh objections. Go back to 4. Don't know what that means. What do you guys think? Does this help you? Like, are you prepared to go sell 1 million listings, or where are you still having trouble?
Feel like this definitely helps. Like having the framework makes things easier. Like we just need to do it more, get more reps, and fill in the holes.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it's good for, and like you said, you're not there to memorize all the scripts. It's really to pick and pull from each script when you need it, when those objections are thrown out or whatever, to guide the direction where it needs to be. And I think it's good. You don't necessarily need to memorize things. You just need to review things and stay fresh on it.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Just keep this in mind and then memorize a few of those objection handlers. Like let's throw out any objection, right? Like what someone give me an objection and let's work through this on your own.
I'm working with an agent already.
Okay. So what's your goal out of that? What we want to say a set of words that do what?
Make them feel comfortable with us. Make them feel like I feel like usually I'll go with like that's awesome. It's always good to have somebody in your corner or something
But
like that.
okay. And what's the end result?
I'd like to get them to work with me.
Okay. So let's jump inside of that seller's mind now, right? I have a friend here who's someone that I'm working with, and I have a random guy that just called me on the phone. I want to buy a house or sell a house. What makes me, what could be any reason that I would want to work with you over them?
If I provide more value,
Okay. What does that look like?
maybe more knowledgeable about the area that they want to move to.
I don't know if that really matters to me. Let's think about it. Let's not overcome. let's not avoid the real issue. Like he wants to buy a house. He's got an agent who's helping him, right? So what else could be a reason he would work with you?
If
That
I found
it's
a
something
house,
you could do that his agent couldn't do.
just find him a house.
Yeah. I mean, that's at the end of the day. If so, so now you when you go back to answer him, I'm working with an agent, right? I
Hmm.
understand how you feel. Most people felt the exact same way. But what we've found is that if we could find you your dream home, that's usually what they're more concerned about. If I could find you your dream home, is working with that guy the most important part of this transaction? So that's a tough one. But, I always say, like, this is probably not something I should say on camera, but I always say, like, crackheads want crack. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
That's what I say when I'm teaching our agents. Like, people that are buying houses, everybody has all these reasons why they don't want to buy a house. And then a $400,000 house gets listed for 300,000 because some agent didn't know how to price it. And now all of a sudden they all want to buy a house again, right? It's not that they didn't want to buy a house the first time. They just thought that they were going to overpay. They thought that they wanted to work with their friend. But if you showed up with that listing to them beforehand, they would probably work with you and buy that house. So that's the issue. The issue is that they need to purchase a home and they've been hit with all these objections or obstacles. Like they're they're working with a friend and there's a reason they haven't bought a house yet, I guess is what I'm saying, right? They're not just like, oh, like this is what we do now. We're doing this. Like they're looking for their property to come up in the right price range that they can afford. And it's not going to because they've seen everything online and their agent's probably just sending them stuff on an auto search. So hey, sir, if I could find you a home off market, would you consider working with us? Um, what's your favorite neighborhood? You want to work in Brookside? Okay, sir, I know it's important for you to work with a friend, but if I told you that I could send every person in, if I told you that 12 houses are going to sell in Brookside this year, and there's 400 homes in that neighborhood. What I'm willing to do if you want to work with us is our off market program that no one else offers. I don't know, maybe your friend offers it, but if you were willing, I'd like to personally hang a door hanger on every single home in that neighborhood. I'd like to call every single homeowner. I'd like to send them a text message and an email that says we have a pre-approved buyer who wants to move into this neighborhood, and I'd like to maybe I could get 3 out of the 12 before they list that are going to sell this year. Would you be open to working with us if I could find you one of them off the market? I mean, you're solving his issue of it not being listed, but if so that's where I guess the framework would be like the rates are too high. Okay. Well, what's the real issue here? You got to find something more affordable in a better price range. So if you could get a house that was a little bit lower, like, so let's think about like if the rates were too high, what does that mean for him? The rates are too high means is that his payment's too high for the home that he wants. Is there a way to lower that? I mean, we could go down in the rabbit hole of like, if I could get a seller to buy down your rate, and which would be something like giving a $10,000 seller's assist and using that towards, you know what I mean? If I get a seller to buy down your rate to 5.5, would you be interested in buying? Okay, let's go.
I found that in this situation, usually call what we call causing pain helps, because it points out the issue that they're having. Because obviously, if they are working with their friend and they haven't bought a house already, then there's some type of issue, right? So causing that pain, meaning like asking the question, okay, well, what's going well with the current agent that you have, kind of catch them off guard. And then when they tell you what's going well, okay, well, what would you change, with your current agent? And then causing that pain, 9 times out of 10, they're going to answer, oh, they just send me houses. They don't really answer their phone very often, blah, 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 blah. and you utilize that pain to get them to switch over.
That's perfect, Mike. That's great. I like to that point, they always say people are more motivated with the fear of loss
Right. Exactly.
than something gained. Along those same lines as that is, would you be okay losing your dream home if it meant you could still work with your friend?
Yeah. Still causing that pain, because
Right,
that in their head is like, wait a minute, no, like I would never want to lose my dream home just to work with this guy that I know from some other guy.
right. Yeah, 100%. I do that with realtors when I ask about their brokerage because I call them to recruit them and they go, oh no, I'm happy where I'm at. Like, oh, okay, great. What are you happy about? Nice. What would you improve if you could? And they just go on and on and on. So yeah, it's kind of funny. Like a lot of times you could just, like Mike said, ask them, what would be another objection then? What I'm getting at is how can we not memorize all these objection handlers? Like, I don't think I have them memorized. I think that I try to just get creative and think like, what's the actual problem? Okay, if we could solve that third or fourth layer in, would they want to move forward? Like, I know Michelle had one once, and we found out, well, the guy actually couldn't sell the home because his kids still rented it, and they keep getting denied on every rental application. And she goes, well, if I could get your kids a rental, would you list your home with us? She's like, yeah, we found them a rental that day, and they listed with us. But you know what I mean? Sometimes you just got to get back to like, what's the real root problem here? And I think it's easy for us as agents to avoid like, what's the actual problem and try to dance around that and make up other solutions. Like, okay, what's our real problem that we can't convert that buyer is that we don't have that listing that he wants. Let's go get that listing that he wants, not try to convince him not to work with his best friend. And you could just make going and getting a listing their solution to every problem in this business. It was that
Well,
easy.
sometimes, like, when they say, like, they're working with an agent, like, for me, like, I want to be ethical, but I think some of the things that the other agent said was really good to, you know, ask, like, oh, that's great, what's working, and then see what they say. Sometimes, you know, it is not awkward, but you know what I mean? Like, you don't know, like,
Well,
how to move forward with them because, like, oh, well, they're working with an agent and they don't really want to talk to you at that moment anyway. So, um,
well, here's the catch to that is like if they're working with an agent, um, and they've like signed with an agent, we can't really cross that line. But if they're saying like, I'm working with an agent, oh, awesome, like, or like my friends are in the business or something like that, then you can, right? But if they say like I've signed with an agent, that's where you have to drop it. If they say like I've already been looking at houses with another agent or something like that, then I would try like, oh, like, have you guys signed anything? Great, and go down that road. But if they
I
say,
think
oh God,
I was going to say, I think it only becomes unethical when you ask for the business. So, I mean, in my situation, what I typically do is I don't ever ask for the business because that to me is unethical. But if I can cause that pain and then show them that I'm knowledgeable, responsive, I let them then make the decision. So that 5 or 10 minute conversation can turn into now I have a new client. And then if it doesn't, hey, just, keep me in mind if things don't end up working out, keep me in mind. And that's how I close it out if they don't decide that they want to switch right then and there. Sometimes you get a call back and sometimes you don't. So you're right. There is an ethical issue, especially as a realtor, and we have that code of ethics that we aren't supposed to poach other people's clients. So I don't necessarily consider it poaching. It's more of like just kind of getting down to what this client actually needs. And maybe that realtor isn't the best fit for them. But they're using them because they're their best friend or they're their best friend's uncle. So that's why they're using them.
Well, the other thing is,
Um,
it's a difference between who called who, right? Like if they called us, if a seller calls me and their home's currently listed about, hey, I was just wondering about selling my home, or they put something in my website about, please reach out to me about selling my home. That's not us soliciting someone else's client. That's us. Okay. Like, yes, how can I help? Well, I was thinking about selling my home, but I have an agent. You can give your pitch there. You just you can't call someone whose house is listed and give your pitch. Like,
I gotta do a PT.
all right, see ya. Yeah, that's what you can't do.
Okay.
So, now if they reached out to us on realtor.com as a buyer lead,
Yeah, that's what I had a question with, because I had to leave from Op City, and I didn't think to ask her, which I guess was stupid of me. But after I showed her the house, she said that she does have an agent, but the agent didn't get back to her because I think he's on vacation. So what do you recommend, like, with an Op City pre-qualified lead? Like, do you recommend, like, I just wanted to show her the house and I didn't think to, you know what I mean? Like, would you still say ask
hold
till
on.
you work
So,
with an agent, or?
so she came over to you and what happened?
No, so this was a lead through Op City,
Yeah.
and she wanted to see a house, and I showed her the house, and afterwards she said she'd be happy to work with me, but she did have an agent that she was working with. And I said, okay, is your agent local? And she said, yes. And, I wanted to see this house, but he didn't get back to me. I don't know, maybe he's on vacation or something. So I kind of I always ask, are you working with an agent? But I wanted to just build a rapport. So, like, did I do anything wrong, you think? Or just like
No,
I should?
not really. I mean, you probably could have got the 24-hour form signed if before the showing. That would have
Via email, or?
sure. Yeah, yeah, and that would have had them agree that they're not working with an agent. But you could have asked them, are you working with a real estate agent? And that the main reason there is because you don't want to waste your time.
Yeah, I usually do. I don't know. I don't know why I didn't.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I don't think that you did anything wrong. I think that if that person says, I would love to be able to work with you, then at that point, you give them the instructions on how to work with you. They're the ones who at that point are making the decision not to work with the agent that they currently have. So shame on him for not answering his phone, but good for you because you did.
Well, yeah, but what if
I recently had a client in the same situation. I went to go show a house. Another person showed up. They wanted to see the house. So I said, yeah, not a problem. I will show it to you as soon as I am finished, with the current clients that I have. I ended up showing her the house. We ended up talking for about 20 minutes. She was like, I really like you. I do have another agent. I signed a buyer agreement. I want to get out of it and work with you. How do I do it? And I told her, and then we ended up working together and she bought a house with me.
Yeah, that's great.
So, I mean, I don't really necessarily think that you did anything wrong.
So do you email them the 24-hour showing paperwork, or do you do it like when you meet with them and then have them sign before you show the house?
So in her case, because I literally have pulled up and my clients were like, hey, this lady wants to see the house, da, da, da. And I was just going to make it a quick thing. Like it was just supposed to be, yeah, sure. Like I'll take you in real quick. Because her agent couldn't show her until that Monday, but she knew the house was going to go quick. So after we had discussed everything, I then sent her an email with our buyer agreement, because at first I wasn't even going to have her sign anything. You know what I mean? It was one of those things where it was just going to be a quick 5-minute thing and I was going to go about my day.
Yeah.
but it ended up turning into, I got a $300,000 pre-approved client.
Mhm. Yeah.
So she signed afterwards, and again, just ended up working with me. And it was really funny story was that I actually had to talk to that other agent at one point.
That's funny. Mhm.
And it is what it is. But at the end of the day, I think that with clients specifically, you can have good fits and you can have bad fits, and depending on the agent, like, and the person, it might just not be a good fit, and they weren't a good fit. She needed somebody who was knowledgeable, who understood certain things that I understood that agent didn't, and I conveyed that to her in our 20-minute conversation, apparently. So she decided to switch.
I think the
Mhm.
important thing is we have to let them know, like, look, if you have a relationship with your agent, we're not trying to step on anyone's toes. If you want to cancel that relationship, we are taking on new clients. Here's what we do. But you can't solicit them, I guess. That's the issue. I had an issue with our office where we had an open house. We were hosting the open house, and a guy came in, and one of our agents said, well, we're not paying a commission. However, like, I'll write up the offer for you. Once, and they had an open house. Like, they had, he said, I'm working with an agent. I have a buyer's agent. At that point, we're representing the seller. We have to stop negotiating with the buyer at that point. Once he says, I have an agent, you know what I mean? Because that could be an ethics violation. If they say, like, we've signed with another agent, like, to Mike's point, like, oh, I'll open the door for you, like, whatever, but you got to cancel your relationship with your agent if you want to work with me.
Okay, so if it's an op city or like realtor.com lead, and I know this is like a stupid question, but it's fine. And you ask them, they say, yeah, I'm working with an agent. How do you respond to that?
Then you would say, okay,
let me-
great. Well, then I would have call your agent, and he can help you with any questions if you want to work with him. If you like, I can only get paid in this situation by representing you. So, if you already have representation with another agent, then go work with them. You know what I mean? Like, is there a reason they haven't shown it to, they're not showing it to you? Well, they're on vacation. Okay, well, if you want to cancel your relationship with him and work with me, we can help. But otherwise, like, I'm not going to show you the house for you to go work with him.
Mhm.
And that's not an opportunity for you to convince him to work with you. I mean, you might be able to indirectly do it. Like,
So yeah, so her name was Donna, ironically. So Donna, I would love to show you the house, but unfortunately, if you have a signed contract with another realtor, ethically, I really am not supposed to show you this house. Unless you like to sign a new contract with me or
Yeah.
a 24-hour showing agreement. Correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, Mike's situation is a little different because he was like, hey, look, I'll let you in the house real quick. Like, if your agent's not here, and then he can't really help. All right, well, their agent doesn't like them. They like me, but we can't, like, use this as a way of getting business. Or if you're in a situation where you're like the other agent's 10 minutes late or something, you can't be like, hey, come, you want to work with me? Like, we can't solicit other client agents' business. That's the,
Yeah,
And I
no,
did about
I'm just talking about realtor.com and the op city stuff because
if they come in
the
from
other,
realtor.com, yeah, I would be like, look, why are you searching for homes on realtor.com? Right? Like, great doubt. Like, just curious, you have an agent. Why are you looking on realtor.com? Oh, okay. And they're not able to show it to you or answer your questions? Oh, okay. Well,
so you would say like the first three questions that we should ask, like the top three should be, are you working with an agent, correct?
not necessarily, because I don't really
Well, see,
know that
that's
I even
why,
want to know that answer. Like,
yeah, well, then that's why I didn't do it because I just wanted to meet with her and build a rapport. You know what I mean?
yeah.
But it's like a catch-22.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I
But,
mean?
like, just know that when you don't ask, you have the opportunity for you to show that house and them to walk away and say, thanks. I loved the property. I'm going to call my agent and make an offer, and there's really nothing you can do about it. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
you're kind of rolling the dice there. But if you, and here's why I don't ask. Say I call, how long have you been looking? Blah, 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 blah. Like I can, if they say, oh, we looked at 3 houses this morning, well, I know something's up. Now I need to know, right? If they say like, oh, this is the first one we're looking at, I haven't gotten started yet, blah, 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 blah. Then I'm going to be like, okay, great. And I'll ask some more questions to like kind of indirectly feel if they have an agent or not. So,
Yeah,
um,
I agree. It's typically how I do it is like getting around it, saying, "Hey, is this the first home you've been inside of, checked out, and kind of feel it out that way?" Because if they say no, then yeah, obviously they had somebody else help them out, and then you can kind of pop that question a little bit more organically. It makes more sense.
yeah. And then because if you just ask them right off the bat, do you have an agent? Say they've never looked before, they're going to be like, actually, you hear the wife, my cousin's an agent. My cousin just passed their license. Like that's the type of stuff you're going to deal with. But if you just, okay, great, like I'll show you the house, blah blah blah. I need you to initial some paperwork. Be happy to help you guys out. Let's go. Go to the house, build rapport with them. You know they're not talking to anybody else. You know what I mean?
Well, now that I think of it, because she had a trailer in is it called Applecross in
I don't know.
Westchester? What is it called? And I said, "Oh, do you need help listing that?" And she said, "No, I don't." But now I know why. You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
which is kind of funny.
So whenever I do that, I would say something along the lines, I try to figure out like where they're at in the process. Like, oh, like, cause we're in their buying lane, right? Like, do you need to know what that home would knowing what that trailer's worth be helpful for you? Okay, well, I could stop by and help you with that and then get in there, like kind of not directly asking for the business. Same thing as before. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yep.
To be honest, yeah, I usually just ask them straight up, where are you at in the process? Are you just starting? Like where are we at? And let them answer.
Yeah.
I think the more directness helps just because it
That's true.
it kind of just sets, instead of beating around the bush, just straight up, hey, where are we at? Is this your first home? Like, you know, that gives me the answers as well. Do they potentially have an agent? Do they not have an agent? All those other questions that I might have can be answered by that one question. Where are you at? Because like Brian said, if they say, oh, this is the 4th house we've seen. Oh, well, who showed you the other properties? Are you working with them? That kind of stuff kind of just leads kind of you down the rabbit hole, and, kind of go from there. And also, to speak to the point, I also did tell that person, I'm not, here to poach you. I wasn't here to grab you. She was like, and she told me specifically that she's making the decision, and she would much rather work with me. So I made sure that I filled in that gap of, hey, I wasn't here to take you as a client. I just wanted to show you the house really quick because you asked. So again, trying to ride that ethical line.
All right. Love it. Hey guys, let's really make sure that we're getting these loans over to Ben, because if he drops us from realtor.com, I can't afford it. The other thing is you're going to be getting requests to update your leads. You need to do that. So figured I could just say those sentences rather than spend 30 minutes trying to convince you, because they're so expensive right now that it's like, everyone that comes in, I want to know like what happened. Da, 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 da. Like I want to know everything about it. So, and we have Lindsay and Gabby and Katie's even going to be helping us out with getting these leads squared away.
I like Ben. I think he's a good mortgage broker. So
Everyone's got issues, you know what I mean? Ben's definitely got some things that he could improve on, but he
yeah, everybody has an opinion. I get it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.